Okay, everyone. This is the quarterly meeting of the Texas State University System Board of Regents. We will now come to order. This meeting is authorized under the Government Code, Chapter 551, regarding the Open Meetings Act as amended by the 76th Legislature, effective September 1st, 1999. The agenda for this meeting was registered with the Secretary of State on May 13th. For the record, the date is May 19th, 2022, and the time is 12:34 p.m. A quorum of the board is present. Please note for the minutes that Regent Crane and President Lonnie Howard are absent, and Charlie Amato will be back shortly. We'll make a note of that in the record. Regent Tinsley, will you please deliver the invocation?
Please pray with me. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. Thank you for the many freedoms we have in this country to meet as we do here today. Impart your divine guidance in us in our deliberations as we deliberate for today and tomorrow in the meeting. Bless those that are here. Thank you for their service for the system and the components. Guide, guard, and direct us in everything we do. For us in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Regent Lee, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Regent Scott, will you lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thanks everyone. I want to begin by thanking Dr. White and the Sam Houston State campus for hosting us today. It's always great to be back to the alma mater and eat 'em up cats. Sadly, this is the last board meeting for Texas State's President, Denise Trow, Dr. Trow. We appreciate everything you've done on behalf of the board. We've said it many times. It's been great. It's certainly given us great foundations going forward, so thank you. With that, I want to welcome and congratulate Texas State President Kelly Danfus, who starts July 1st. So we're glad that you could join us today. Thank you. Also, Sam Houston State's Carlos Hernandez is here, and Pete Galejos, who is going from Sol Ross president and handing over to Carlos Hernandez from Sam Houston State, is an interim. So we thank you both for being here today as well. Thanks Pete. Thanks, Carlos. Chancellor McCall, any comments?
Well, I'm grateful to both presidents for what they've done. There will be more said at a later date, later time in this meeting, but we can't thank either of them enough, and so grateful, and more about this in due course.
Yeah, thanks everyone. As we get started with regular business, I would like to remind the board that after a motion is made on an agenda item and call for the second is requested, to please raise your hand and wait for me to recognize you for the proper recording of the minutes. Also, a reminder, we are live streaming this meeting, and to silence your phones and devices, please. Our first two items of business are the approvals of the previous meeting minutes held on February 17th and 18th, and the special called meeting held on April 21st of this year. Regents, are there any additions or corrections to the February meeting minutes? Seeing none, I move that the minutes of the quarterly Board of Regents meeting held February 17th and 18th be approved. Do I hear a second? Regent Flores, is there any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Regents, are there any additions or corrections to the April 21st special called meeting minutes? Seeing none, I move that the minutes of the special called meeting held April 21st be approved. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Tinsley. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. We will now hear reports and motions from the committees. The committees met prior to the board meeting to go over proposed agenda items in detail. All minutes under consideration were voted on by the committee before coming to the full board. I will call on the chairs of the committees to present the reports and make motions to the full board. Academic Health and Affairs Committee, Regent Nikki Harrell. Committee member.
Thank you. Before discussing the agenda items from the Academic and Health Affairs Committee meeting, I'd like to invite Dr. John Hayek, our Vice Chancellor for Academic and Health Affairs, to the podium for a brief report.
Great. Thank you, Regent Harrell. Good afternoon. A number of you may have already met the newest member of our system's Academic and Health Affairs team, but I wanted to give her a special introduction. If you haven't met her, Dr. Ashley Spicer Reynolds, our new Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic and Health Affairs. She's worked over the last 15 years at a number of institutions in Texas, most recently at Texas A&M San Antonio, but also worked in leadership positions at Texas State University and Lamar University, and also is very familiar with our system. She has her bachelor's from Lamar and a doctoral degree from Lamar, so we welcome her to the system. I also wanted to congratulate our campus leadership, faculty and staff, who have helped produce so many graduates and successful commencements over the last several weeks. I know our graduates and their families appreciate all the extra work and effort involved in these celebrations. So again, thank you very much to campus leadership. And related to commencement, I had the honor of attending several of Sam Houston's commencements last week, and it was very truly inspirational and really emotional when President White asked how many of the graduates were first generation graduates, and nearly half of the graduates stood up. And truly just an emotional moment, but clearly our institutions are continuing to do an amazing job of just changing the future trajectory of Texas, of their families and the community, so greatly appreciated them. And with that, just related to commencement, I thought it, just for fun this afternoon, might mention just a few data points related to our graduates this past year. And I just put a few kind of interesting data points on the slide here that folks can take a look at. So this past year, our system produced over 22,000 degrees and certificates among our 7 institutions. About 9,000 of those were produced at Texas State, another 5,500 or so both at Sam Houston and Lamar as well combined. With those new graduates, our alumni numbers are over 520,000 individuals. In terms of breaking down like who our graduates are, about 50% come from low-income families. 30% of those degrees are fully online. 29% of those degrees and certificates are from Hispanic students, 15% from African American students. About 1 out of 5, 21% are adult learners, and we consider adult learners 25 and older in terms of that category. 55%, so over half of our students graduate with no debt whatsoever, 0 debt, 55%. And true to our foundations, we continue to produce a lot of teachers in our system. This past year, over 1,700 new teachers were produced out of our institutions, and also 700 plus nurses. So our institutions are continuing to do just amazing work. With that, again, I thank the institutions for their great work in helping produce these results, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hayek. The Academic and Health Affairs Committee met telephonically on Monday, May the 9th, 2022, and was chaired by me with committee members Regents Flores and Regent Lee in attendance, as well as representatives from our institutions and system staff. All action and consent items were reviewed, discussed, and approved by the committee to be moved to the full board. I will now make a motion for the approval of each item. The board chair will then call for a second from any regent. The first item for consideration is for Lamar University. Chair Austin, I move that Lamar University be authorized to add a new degree plan for Master of Education, Literacy Leadership in Urban Education on campus, online, and hybrid modes. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harrell. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Faskey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Before voting on the next item, I would like to invite President White to provide brief remarks on the revisions of the Sam Houston State University Strategic Framework. Dr. White.
Thank you, Regent Harrell. You have before you a new mission statement, values statement, strategic priorities, and if you approve what's before you today, the next step will be to identify specific goals, objectives, a timeline, budget, time frame, and who's responsible. But the reason I wanted to address you is to let you know that this really is a grassroots effort, that we have had numerous stakeholders, internal and external, to give input. We've had broad participation from faculty and staff, from students, from alumni, from industry, and actually this is the most exciting I've ever seen a campus over determining the trajectory for the future. And so specifically, I won't read it to you because you have it, but I do want you to see that our number one priority is both a combination of access and success. We want to get them in, we want to get them through and out, and then elevating the reputation and visibility of our institution through an embodiment of a culture of excellence. And then we take our service to the state and to the system and our community very seriously. And so I would ask that you speak favorably and vote in support of our new strategic plan. I must also thank Chief Strategy Officer, Major General Retired Dave Glazer, and Dr. McCartney Johnson for leading this effort.
Thank you, President White.
Thank you.
We're going to look forward to hearing more about the details at future meetings. Chair Austin, I move that Sam Houston State University's strategic framework, including a revised mission statement, values, vision statement, and strategic priorities, be approved. Mr. Chairman?
Is there a second? Second by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Our third item is also for Sam Houston State University. Chair Austin, I move that Sam Houston State University be authorized to offer a degree program and the associated new course additions leading to the Master of Science in Applied Economics. Mr. Chairman?
Do I hear a second? Regent Flores. Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Before voting on the fourth item, I'd like to invite President Gallego to provide brief remarks on this special honor for Dr. Jimmy Case.
Thank you so much, Regent Harrell. Dr. Jimmy Case was actually the last remaining faculty member who was there when I was a student at Sul Ross back in 1981. He came to us with a master's degree when he began, worked on his doctorate, traveling back and forth from Alpine to Texas Tech in Lubbock, worked his way, became department chair in political science, and then worked his way into administration, and ended up as the provost and the executive vice president of Sol Ross. It's a career spanning from 1981 or so all the way to this year. This last semester, he finally chose to retire. He'd made such a significant contribution not only to Sol Ross, but to the whole community and to Alpine. He actually moved to Alpine, ran for office, got elected to the local hospital district board, which he chaired for a while, and really did everything that he could to build better bridges between the university and the community. And the university and the faculty made a determination that it was worth his service and his years of effort on behalf of the university to name the college that he served in, that he led, in his honor. And that's what we're asking the Regents to approve today. Thank you so much, Regent Harl.
Thank you, President Gallego. Chair Austin, I move that Sol Ross State University be approved to change the name of the College of Literature, Arts, and Social Sciences to be the Jimmy D. Case College of Literature, Arts, and Social Sciences. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Scott. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item 5 is another one for Sol Ross State University. Chair Austin, I move that Sol Ross State University be authorized to offer the Bachelor of Science in Education General Studies non-certification degree effective September 1st, 2022. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Item number 6 is another one for Sol Ross State University. Chair Austin, I move that Sol Ross State University be authorized to modify the existing undergraduate admissions criteria for first-time in college students to allow for test optional admission. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Regent Tinsley. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 7 is for Texas State University. Chair Austin, I move that Texas State University be authorized to offer the existing Master of Applied Geography degree with a major in Geography, Resource, and Environmental Studies via distance education. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Faskey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 8 is another one for Texas State University. Chair Austin, I move that Texas State University be authorized to add a new Master of Long-Term Care Administration degree with a major in Long-Term Care Administration. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 9, also for Texas State University. Chair Austin, I move that Texas State University be approved to continue to use a test-optional approach for freshman admissions requirements and be approved to expand assured freshman admissions requirements to the top 25% ranked first-year students beginning in the fall of 2023. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Harl. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Regent Tinsley, seconded by Regent Tinsley. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 10 is for Lamar Institute of Technology. Chair Austin, I move that Lamar Institute of Technology be authorized to create a new Associate of Applied Science and Level 1 certificate in Data Analysis, Data Analytics, effective spring 2023. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Hall. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 11, also for Lamar Institute of Technology. Chair Austin, I move that Lamar Institute of Technology be authorized to create a new Associate of Applied Science and Level 1 certificate in Aviation Maintenance Technology, Airframe, and Level 1 certificate in Aviation Maintenance Technology, Power Plant, effective fall 2023. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Hall. Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Faskey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 12 is for Lamar State College, Orange. Chair Austin, I move that Lamar State College, Orange be authorized to create a new Engineering Associate of Science degree effective fall of 2022. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Regent Hall. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Item number 13 is for Lamar State College, Port Arthur. Chair Austin, I move that Lamar State College, Port Arthur be authorized to begin an Associate of Arts in Music degree beginning with the fall semester of 2022. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Regent Hall. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next item on our agenda is informational only. It's the Texas State University System Certified Enrollment Report for spring of 2022. I thought it was going to be, there it is. Any remaining items are included in the consent agenda unless someone wishes to remove an item from consent. This concludes the committee's report to the board, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Regent Harrell. Thanks for filling in for Regent Crane. Lengthy fill-in, so he skipped. But when I look through the degree programs and see what's coming up and what we're trying to accomplish here as a university, it's certainly everything I saw that we're going forward with is prevalent and is needed in what we do every day. So I commend everyone for that, as well as want to welcome Dr. Runnels to the system. So thank you. Welcome. With that, we'll turn it over to the Finance and Audit Committee. Regent Tinsley.
The Finance and Audit Committee met telephonically on May 10, 2022 to discuss finance and audit items included in today's agenda. I chaired the meeting and Regent Austin, Regent Crane, and Student Regent Settigas participated. The Finance and Audit Committee considered all items and the committee agreed to move the agenda item to today's meeting for the board's consideration. Before we begin, I'd like to ask Daniel to provide a brief financial overview.
Thank you, Regent Tinsley. First on the agenda, I wanted to update the group on our insurance program. So first is property update. So we did successfully bind our upcoming renewal. Insured values across the system is now 4.7 billion. It's up around 7%. We've again had an additional rate increase, so we're now right at 17 cents per $100 of value. It's a 9% increase. Our total premium, we're pushing right under 8 million. We were able to hold off deductible changes, which is good. And our largest issue that is what's driving our rate change is that we have a 6-year loss ratio in excess of 100%. We're at 123%. It's due for Hurricane Harvey and Winter Storm Uri. Insurance carriers, they like to be, or they can be mildly uncomfortable with the 70% loss ratio. So as you can tell, we got putting some squeeze on them there. Next slide. So this is just the long-term trend on our rate, going back to when we first got into insurance, which is in 2006. We're right again at that 17 cents per $100 value, and we're still significantly below where we were when we were in the state's program, which we ended there at 20 cents. Optimistic that we can hold our losses in our primary layer, that we'll be able to see either this curve flatten out or hopefully reduce. Unless there's questions on that, I'll move to auto. So 2 years ago, we moved to a high retention auto program. So we had a auto program previously that was more similar to a personal line of auto. So now we moved to high retention. We have right under 1,200 vehicles. Our current premium is $220,000. Our claim service that we use to manage the claims costs us around $16,000. In year to date, we've spent $65,000 on our paid losses, which is within inside our layer. Kind of for a point of reference, when we were under the old program, our last quote was for $530,000. So right now we're paying around $300,000 a year for auto, which you could say is saving the system around $230,000 a year on the auto program. So again, demonstrating that it was a good move to move from where we were to high retention. And then I have this slide in case there are questions about the structure. The most important aspect of it would be the far right slide, which just shows you that our obligation is for the first $265,000 of claims per year, and then our insurance comes in above that up to an additional $1 million. So we do have the coverage on the top end. It kind of limits our overall exposure. And again, historically, we have $550,000 to $1 million. $50,000 to $100,000 for the claims over time. On debt program, we have around $1 billion outstanding, $962 million. 20% of that is tuition revenue bonds. That's reimbursed by the state of Texas. We additionally have right now around $70 million outstanding on our commercial paper program, and our current rate is right at 1%. For reference, annual debt service on the principal is $68 million, and for our current portfolio of that $1 billion, our average interest rate is 2.9%, so fairly low. We are anticipating issuing over the next 3 years around $800 million of new debt. Half of that's associated with the tuition revenue bonds that the last legislature provided. And kind of with respect to potential pressure on our credit rating, it's modeled that we shouldn't anticipate any. That additional $800 million, half of it's going to be reimbursed by the state. The rating agencies recognize that. And because of our 20-year amortization over the next 3 years, we should probably pay off around $300 million of our existing debt, which will be offset by $400 million of new. So it's similar to a one-to-one wash. Next, we have 2 more after this, is Treasury. All of y'all received an email on Tuesday. We ended last fiscal year strong. Operating pool had a 17% return. Our endowment pool, 33% return. And you can see in the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we've lost some of that but less than 5%. So things are still going well on that front. And the last piece is just a brief overview of two of the financial indicators that we model. We talked a year ago about the composite financial index, which is a KPMG function. It includes 4 aspects: your primary reserve, your net operating revenues, viability, which is debt to reserves, and then your return on net investment. They do some gyrations to get you a number. And again, this is a tool, and you can see our goal is to be in that 3 to 5 range, which is that yellow, and we've kind of moved through that. This tool really is identified to help you ask questions, and you can see that in 2019 we moved down. So that begs, why did we move down? And that's the same year that we did a large debt issuance, so it puts pressure on that number. And then you can see as we grow, and then 2021 has an impact on that due to the federal COVID dollars that had come in, received but not expended yet. And I'd imagine that as we issue more debt, as we expend the COVID funds, we'll move back into that 3 range. Next slide, Derek. And this is that same chart, but instead of year after year, it's institution by institution. So you can see where the individual institutions are that help build our composite rate of right under 4%.
Daniel, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Does that rating right there, does that impact your borrowing cost as well?
No, this is just an internal.
It's an internal.
All an internal tool. As you could probably imagine, Moody's uses a lot of these same data points.
Sure.
To build their scorecard, and S&P has their scorecard as well. So. Sir?
Do you get like a ghost rating before you go to the agencies?
So we get indication if they think there's going to be a change.
Yeah,
which
fair
gets
enough.
that.
Yeah, so.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
And then lastly, this is a chart that I've presented for a few years at the encouragement of Regent Scott. And this would be what would proxy as like a fund balance number. So it's months of coverage. And you can see from 17 to 20, we've been in that 6 months range, which is where we want to be. And you can see in 2021, the number has increased significantly. But again, the primary driver to that is the inflow and the outflow of the COVID dollars. So we have those with us, and they will be gone shortly. So I anticipate when you see 22, 23, we'll be back in that 6 months. So all in all, between those last 3 slides, kind of, I hope, gives an indication of the financial strength that the system does have. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Daniel. The first item on the agenda is an informational item. It's operating budget adjustments for fiscal year 2022. The next item on the agenda is also an informational item, the status of implementation of audit recommendations. The remaining item is included in the consent agenda, Lamar University authorization of the 7th Amendment to the Chartwell's Food Services Agreement, Sam Houston State University authorization of the 20th Amendment to the Aramark Food Services Agreement, and Lamar State College's ratification of tuition rates for non-credit courses. If there's no questions, this concludes the Finance and Audit Committee's report.
Thank you, Regent Tinsley. With that, we'll turn it over to the Planning and Construction. Regent Chair Scott.
Mr. Chairman, the Planning and Construction Committee met on May the 10th, 2022 to discuss the planning and construction agenda. I chaired the meeting and Regents Austin and Lee participated. The committee considered all items and agreed to move each item to today's meeting for the board's consideration. The first item for consideration is TSUS Capital Improvement Program. Chairman Austin, I move that the Capital Improvements Program for the fiscal year 2023 through 2028 be adopted.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes.
The second item on the agenda is an information item and the quarterly planning and construction report. Are we going to? I refer everyone to the what's being presented here. There is no motion necessary on this. It's just informational. But I think at the end of the day, what I see, having been here now for 11 years on this committee, is there's a wave out there and it's coming toward the shore and it hadn't landed yet. But we're going to see significantly more, and of course it's the offshoot of the TRB passage. That's a great one there. I think it shows what is in our future. And anyway, the system we needed TRBs, we got them, and now we've got to work them through the system, and that's when my committee really has to go to work, and Daniel, who heads it all up from the system standpoint. The third item and remaining item includes, concluded in the consent agenda, additions to the 2022-2027 capital improvement program. And unless there's any questions, that concludes the current Planning and Construction Committee report.
Thank you, Regent Scott. I just want to say, having seen how much we've done and built with the amount that's out there and the escalations you see in labor, and what we've done is pretty phenomenal to have the institution from the construction team and planning team and all the institutions to come in. I think it's roughly less than 5%. Very well done. Not easy. So coming from that world, it's tough, and commend everyone for their hard work. And thank you, Regent Scott. Rules and Regulation, Regent Don Flores, Chair.
Thank you. The Rules and Regulations Committee met by telephone on Wednesday, May 11, 2022, and discussed the items on the Rules and Regulations agenda. I chaired the meeting, which was also attended by committee members Regent Foskey and Regent Tinsley, as well as Regent Harrell. The Chancellor and representatives of the System Administration Office and the component institutions were also present. The committee was duly posted. The meeting was duly posted in accordance to the Texas Open Meetings Law. The committee voted unanimously to recommend that all agenda items be placed on the consent agenda, and unless any regent would like to move one of these rules to the meeting agenda, the committee recommends that they remain as a part of the consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the Rules and Regulations Committee report.
Thank you for your report, Regent Flores. In view of the Rules and Regulations Committee's recommendation to place these proposed rules on the consent agenda, no action is required at this time. Government and Relations Committee, Regent Harrell, Chair.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'd like to invite Sean Cunningham to come up and give us a report, please.
Chairman Austin, Regents, Chancellor, Presidents. Since I last addressed you at Lamar University, we've seen an eventful primary election, the start of interim hearings, and we only have several days away from the runoff election date. All this, in addition to our busy outreach schedule, has made for an eventful 3 months as we approach the summer. In my following remarks, I will briefly recap those topics I just listed and give a quick look ahead to the summer months as we approach preparing for the 88th legislative session. As you are aware, the legislature has been conducting interim hearings in both the House and the Senate, and both in the House and Senate Higher Education Committees, and have completed one hearing each, respectively. On May 5th, we had the House take up the charge of reviewing the Coordinating Board's 60 by 30 plan. Commissioner Keller headlined the hearing, where he discussed the progress of the 60 by 30 goals, as well as several of his new priorities for building a talent-strong Texas. These include an emphasis on micro-credentialing and reskilling and upskilling an aging workforce to meet the 21st century demands. We believe TSUS will be vital to meeting the state's goal and continue to praise the work that the Commissioner is doing, as well as the board. The Senate Education Committee met this past month to tackle several charges, including enrollment trends in higher education, workforce education, monitoring key pieces of legislation from the 87th, in particular, a House bill that were related to the measures to support the alignment of education and workforce development in the state with state workforce needs, including the establishment of the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative. Teacher and healthcare workforce participation, funding of the Permanent University Fund were also discussed. I want to personally thank President Jaime Taylor, who testified on the first charge that I mentioned regarding enrollment trends across higher education. Lamar University's 5% increase was a compelling story for the Higher Education Committee, and the increase in African American and Hispanic enrollment during the pandemic was well received by Chairman Creighton and his members. Moving on to the primary and runoff elections. Election night in Texas are always fascinating, and March 1st was no exception. As you all are aware, we had virtually no turnover at the statewide level, with Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Ag Commissioner Miller all winning re-election. Several statewide races, however, will be decided next Tuesday. They include the Attorney General's office, Land Commissioner's office, Railroad Commission, and a Railroad Commission office. Perhaps even more shocking, only one incumbent on both sides of the aisle lost their House seat, and that was the result of two incumbents who were paired as a result of redistricting. We do still have several high-profile incumbent runoffs that we are paying close attention to. I'll just note one of them, Representative Kyle Casal versus Ben Bias, who is a Sam Houston grad, that will be decided Tuesday. So we'll be watching to see who we need to congratulate. As a reminder, the GR team will be monitoring these results, and I just want to do a quick shout out to someone else who had a really nice election night in March. The chairman of my committee, Regent Harrell, or should I say Judge-elect Harrell. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now moving on to outreach, I want to quickly highlight to the boards a list of some of the outreach that our team and Chancellor McCall have engaged in since I last addressed the board. I hope this quick snapshot highlights some of the work our institutions and team are doing to keep the interest in the forefront of our legislators' minds. We toured Eagle Pass with Representative Eddie Morales and the Eagle Pass delegation. We attended the Texas State versus University of Texas baseball game with legislative staff, where I'm happy to report that Texas State pulled off a huge upset and beat the #1 team in the land at that point. And the baseball team is doing incredible still. We visited with Congressman-elect Morgan Luttrell at Sam Houston State. Thank you, President White, for arranging that. We visited with Senator Ted Cruz's staff at Texas State University. We've had events at O. Henry Hall with Senator John Cornyn's staff and the governor's office staff. We've had meetings with Chairman Metcalf, Chairman Creighton, and Chairman Bonin at the Sam Houston State University DO School in Conroe. The Chancellor represented the system in Southeast Texas when he attended the Build Back Better Roundtable discussion with Speaker Dade Phelan and President Renard. And Congressman John Carter was invited and was presenting a check to Texas State to show that he had gotten additional federal funding for the Round Rock campus in the STEM program. Thank you to President Trout for inviting me to attend that. I appreciate that very much. And then lastly, Commissioner Harrison Keller gave the commencement address at Sam Houston State this past week, and had the pleasure of hearing him do 2 of those commencements. And I concur with what Dr. Hayek had said. It is very moving to see that many first-generation students all being recognized, greater than 50%. It was impressive. These are several of the outreach initiatives and examples. It's no way all that we do, but I just wanted to highlight those. We appreciate the work of our institutions helping to assist in these outreach efforts, and look forward to working with everybody going forward, leading us up to the next legislative session. Let's see. We also have the federal update, which I will pass out to you shortly. I won't read that to you. I will allow you to read that at your leisure. But just one thing I would like to highlight is that in the recent omnibus federal spending bill that Congress passed, the Texas State University system was able to get $22.6 million of that, and so that was that was a nice piece of information that I wanted to make you aware of. And then finally, I'd just like to close my remarks by thanking our outgoing presidents for their service and for working with the governmental relations team. We'll miss you, and we always appreciate what you've done to be ready at any moment to testify in committees and do all the legwork on getting us ready to advance your legislative appropriations requests. While we'll miss you, we look forward to working with the next presidents at our institutions. And with that, I close and can answer any easy questions.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to take this opportunity to commend the government affairs team for the hard work they do, not just during the session, it's all the time, in the interim, in between. It's amazing, and I've learned a lot by working with Sean. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Cunningham. Since no action is required on this report, the board will now consider contracts, personnel, and miscellaneous items. The next order of business is the approval of contracts. All items in the contract section have been moved to the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the board? Vice Chancellor Herrera is available should you have any. There being no objections, these items are moved to the consent agenda. Personnel. The next order of business, delegation. Let's see. The first item is the delegation of authority of the Chair of the Board of Regents to determine the compensation of the Chancellor during the first year 2023 and making necessary updates to the existing employment and deferred compensation contracts. I didn't want to mess that up. Motion made. Is there a motion? Regent Scott. Is there a second? Regent Amato. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. The second item is the delegation of authority to determine fiscal year 2023 compensation for the Chief Audit and Executive to the Chair of the Finance and Audit Committee. Is there a motion? The motion is made by Regent Lee. Is there a second? Second is by Regent Flores. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. The remaining items in the personnel section can be found on the consent agenda. The next order of business is the miscellaneous section. The first item under this section is from Texas State University, requesting the following resolution be adopted in recognition and appreciation of the honor brought to the Texas State University and the Texas State University System by Dr. David E. Lemke, Piper Professor for 2022. Dr. Trouth, would you please comment on this item?
You said Dr. Lemke is a professor in the Department of Biology at Texas State University.
Sorry, Dr. Trouth, you might have to hit a little harder. I had to hit on mine a little bit. Sorry about that. Yes, ma'am. What about the podium? Can you?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Probably want to get this on the record.
Thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman. As you said, Dr. David Lemke is a professor in our Department of Biology, and he was named the 25th Piper Professor at Texas State University. The Piper Professorship is one of the highest teaching awards that is given to a full-time faculty member in the state of Texas. Dr. Lemke has received numerous teaching awards over the years, including the Presidential Award for Excellence in Teaching, the Everett Swinney Faculty Senate Award in teaching, but he's also a genuine scholar. He has published over 48 scientific papers and made over 120 scientific presentations. And I think what's wonderful about Dr. Lemke is that he shows that a strong teacher and a strong scholar go together, that there is no dichotomy between good teaching and being a scholar. And finally, I would add, he's also on the Christmas Mountain Advisory Committee, which I know is something near and dear to the heart of the Chancellor. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about one of our stellar faculty members.
Thank you, Dr. Trouth. Any comments from the Regents? Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt the resolution? Motion made by Regent Flores. Is there a second? Regent Harrell, seconded. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Lemke, on his achievements. I know Dr. Trouth and her team will ensure the resolution makes it back to him. The next item asks Lamar State College, Orange, be authorized to accept the donation of improved real property located at 602 Green Avenue, Orange County, Texas, from the Nelda C. and H.G. Letcher Stark Foundation. Dr. Johnson, would you like to comment on this motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The donated property and church structure is located across the street. It's part of our campus master planning, and the gift is being made in conjunction with LSCO's purchase of real property in the master plan area from the Stark Foundation. It's a beautiful old church. Was built in 1913, and we have great plans to make it even more beautiful in downtown Orange.
Yeah, it was an amazing building. We got to see it last time we were down. It was incredible. So, any questions for the Regents?
The one thing I would add is that is absolutely a stunning building. This is a coup from Tom and his team to get this donation. It's going to be a great addition to the campus, and just glad to see it's in the right hands now.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Is there a motion? Oh, sorry. Regent Amato. Is there a second? Regent Lee. Any discussion? Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Our next item is a walk-on motion from the Texas State University System and Sul Ross State University as a resolution honoring Pete P. Gallejos, President of Sul Ross State University, with the order to confer President Emeritus status. At this time, I'd like to ask Chancellor McCall to comment.
No one loves Sul Ross State University more than Pete P. Gallego. No one has given more to Sul Ross State University than Pete P. Gallego, not just in the past 2 years, but throughout his life. 30 years ago, Pete P. Gallego invited me to go camping. What he didn't tell me was that there was a mandatory tour of Sul Ross State University all the way to the camping trip. And thank God there was, because I fell in love with Sul Ross State University 30 years ago because of it, and had been going back regularly prior to finding myself in this position. Pete regularly took legislators, governors, leaders to Sul Ross for that purpose, so that they would fall in love with Sul Ross State University. It's great that his career has taken him from freshman to president, and now soon to be president emeritus. It's only right and fitting that we honor him in this way for all he has done for the university that he loves and has served so well. So Pete, if you could join me by the resolution.
May I go ahead and read? President Gallego took the reins.
Hold on, one second, hold on. Got it. Regents, I move we adopt this resolution honoring Pete P. Gallego, an excellent president and a fine man, and it forever be memorialized in the proceedings of this Board of Regents and in the permanent records of Sul Ross State University, and the title President Emeritus, together with the privileges and perquisites stated in the rules and regulations for professors emeriti, be conferred and forever inure to President Gallego. Regent Amato, do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Flores. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Regent Harrell, would you please read the summary of the resolution?
I would be honored. President Gallego took the reins of Sul Ross State University in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the unique challenges presented by the pandemic, President Gallego ensured that the university continued to make progress on several fronts. He led efforts to improve the university's 4 campuses by executing the completion of a project to improve access to the Alpine campus, overseeing the expansion of the Museum of the Big Bend, securing indoor and outdoor Wi-Fi access across campus, upgrading classroom technology for online and distance education, updating critical infrastructure including air conditioners, boilers, and storm-damaged roofing, and securing $1 million for the Center for the Big Bend Studies in the first round of federal earmarks in a decade. He worked to strengthen university operations by overseeing the use of the federal dollars to Sul Ross for the university's COVID-19 response, initiating compliance measures stemming from the university's 2018 accreditation review, and working to improve accounting practices at the institution. And he worked to improve the student experience by encouraging a student-first mentality across departments, tripling the number of the counselors to address students' mental health needs, and identifying more than $750,000 in unused scholarship funds. Congratulations.
Pete, would you like to comment?
I went to my first Board of Regents meeting of the Texas State University system in 1981 as a student at Sul Ross. A lot has changed in that time, and I would never have envisioned myself some 40 years later before the Board of Regents. It has been a singular honor, and Sul Ross is and has been and will always be a particular passion of mine because it gave opportunity. I want to take this opportunity really to recognize the people around me, the executive committee that I served with. It's a bunch of really extremely talented people who helped us really reshape and reform and redirect the university. And as I leave, there's a couple of things that I think are really cool about Sul Ross. We've increased the amount of scholarships available by between 60 and 70% for people who need assistance getting to college. Our annual financial report is going, you'll note that when I started, our annual financial report had us about on the negative side, 4.9 or so million dollars. We're going to report $3.4 million in the black this time around within 2 years. A lot of cool things are happening at Sul Ross. And I'll be around. It's kind of hard to go too far away when your actual residence is a block away from the Sul Ross campus. And there's a tiny little building in Alpine that kind of bears the name of a relative of mine, or so Nicolas tells me. But I want you to know that I'm tremendously grateful, not only for the resolution you all passed today, but more so just for the opportunity to make a positive impact on the place that I really love, above more than most other places, because it's been such a long and historic part, not only of my life, but it's been part of my family's life for several generations. So, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for the honor. I look forward to continuing to work with you in whatever capacity I can, and know that wherever I am, I'm always going to think, go Lobos.
Thank you, Pete. I know I speak on behalf of the board. We truly appreciate what you've done at Sul Ross and your passion and love for that university. If you can't see it, you must not be looking too hard, because we see it. So thank you. The remaining action items in the miscellaneous section have been moved to Friday's agenda, and the remaining items in the miscellaneous section can be found in the consent agenda. The board will now recess to executive session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071 through 551.074 of the Government Code. No votes will be taken in executive session. For the record, the time is 1:36 p.m. We will now reconvene in open session. The time is 4:04 p.m. For the record, in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, no votes were taken or decisions reached in executive session. If there is no further business and without objection, we will stand in recess for the day and reconvene in open session tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The time is 4:05 p.m.